And thanks for joining us on this eve of the 2023 Western Conference Final between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. We are live here from Studio 31 at City National Arena for a very special edition of the Realm Report brought to you by our friends over at Station Casinos. Gary, we have a lot on deck. Are you ready for it?
I am, Ashley, yes.
So
we're very exciting stuff.
We're going to be able to watch the final practice the Golden Knights will have before their first game of the third round of the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Guys are trickling onto the ice right now. We'll certainly take some inside looks at that, but we also we want to hear from you, so be sure to submit your questions. If you're one of the members of VGK Worldwide, let us know where you're watching from so we can give you a shout out. We're also going to hear from a lot of people once practice wraps up, Gary. Adin Hill, Jonathan Marchessault, Jack Eichel, Captain Mark Stone, and Bruce Cassidy and Kelly McCrimmon.
How long are we going to be on for?
We're going to be on for a long time, so buckle up, everyone.
I've got a nap scheduled at some point in time this afternoon.
The good news is, you do. The good news is Darren Millard and Shane Knighty will be taking over for us about halfway through, but everyone stuck with us until then. And Gary, do you want to go ahead and start watching practice, or do you want to start talking about what excites you most about this matchup between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars?
Well, we can put practice on the screen so that the viewers can watch practice and you and I can chat a little bit.
Perfect.
How's that sound?
Perfect.
What do you want to talk about?
What excites you most about this matchup in particular?
Well, what excites me the most is the winner gets to go to the Stanley Cup final. That this is, I'll tell you something. I was told by a general manager a long time ago, if you reach, from a general manager's perspective, if you reach the conference finals, you've done your job. Because from this point on, you know, a goalie can get hot and a team can get to the cup. Someone can get hurt and that can damage a team's chances. You've built a team that's good enough to be in the Final Four. You know, you got a 50-50 chance now of getting to the Stanley Cup. Your owner will have now sold playoff tickets in 3 rounds. So he or she should be happy. Your fan base will have seen 3 rounds of playoff games. They should be very, very pleased with that. There's 28 other franchises that would, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they would kill to be here. They're not. They're fighting over whether they're going to fire their general manager or their coach or trade Austin Matthews or get rid of Mitch Marner's cap hit. The Edmonton Oilers are looking in the mirror right now trying to figure out, what do we have to do?
Yep.
Colorado got in our way last year. Vegas got in our way earlier this year. We've got the 2 best offensive players in the world. What do we have to do? And all of these questions are getting asked all around the NHL. Here, the questions are, what are you most excited about?
Right. It's a good questions to have for sure. You mentioned hot goaltenders. Adin Hill is on the ice, as is Alec Martinez. Both of those guys took a maintenance days yesterday, so great to see them back out there for sure. How do you view, or actually, I was going to go into the Dallas Stars, but I want to circle back to you talking about how most teams would be lucky just to be here. You still get the sense that there's a lot of hunger in that room, though. They don't feel like the job is finished, not even close.
No, I think, first of all, you have a group of guys. Let me see if I can get them all right here. Pietrangelo, Barbashev, Quick, Martinez, Kessel. Who am I missing?
You said Barbashev,
yeah.
Pietrangelo, Martinez, Quick,
Kessel.
Kessel.
There's one more guy in there with a Stanley Cup ring. Number 20?
Chandler Stevenson.
Stevenson, Washington Capitals.
Washington Capitals.
Yes, there you go.
I'm sitting there trying to read sign language. I'm like, oh, it's not Zach Whitecloud.
Gordon Weigers, the producer of this fantastic stream, is flashing, and I couldn't tell if he was flashing 20 or not. Well, there's Chandler right there. So you've got a bunch of guys that have won. So they want to win again.
Yeah.
They've tasted it, right? And, Quick, Kessel, Pietrangelo. How many more chances do you get, right? You're at a certain point in time in your career. So there's that. Then there's, Adin Hill's only played in 4 playoff games. So for him, this is all fresh. And then for Mark Stone and the group of Golden Knights that missed the playoffs last year, there's a hunger from them as well because, and listen, they've been an underdog all year. A lot of people didn't expect them to make the playoffs. Some people thought Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee would start a rebuild at Christmas time. That was written in a number of places.
Yeah.
And then echoed by a lot of fans. So, those guys certainly have felt disrespected. And they were underdogs in that last series. And everywhere, we were in Canada for half the series. And everywhere you turned, there was, you'd be told that, McDavid and Draisaitl are the best players in the world. They're not the best players in the world for me. They're the best offensive players. There's a distinction. And I think that was shown, in that Jack Eichel is now in the Conn Smythe conversation because of what he did at both ends of the ice. And McDavid and Draisaitl are eliminated. So, and I'm not comparing Jack to them. I guess I am in a certain extent. He fits into a team in a better way and has helped that team advance. So, Jack is a fantastic story right now. He is in the Conn Smythe conversation. Yep. William Hill, they did the odds yesterday, and he's right near the top. I think you probably go right now. Hintz from Dallas, Eichel from Vegas, Tkachuk from Florida, and then Sebastian Aho from Carolina. Carolina's an interesting team because they're so balanced, and I would have Slavin on that list from my perspective from Carolina. But Adin Hill might get, he was so good in Game 6. He might get crazy hot and put himself into the equations. Ottinger might do the same, and Bobrovsky has been very hot. I guess he's probably part of that picture as well. So fascinating stuff at this juncture. What did you ask me at the start of this?
What did I ask you?
Yeah, I've gone way off topic, I believe, haven't I?
I've asked you about what excites you most about the matchup. I've talked about, it was about how hungry they still are to get there.
Yeah, I think they're hungry. I think they're very hungry. I think there's no question that the Golden Knights are this. They've done themselves some favors in they got through Winnipeg in 5, through Edmonton in 6, so now they're going to have a little bit of rest, and they'll be ready to play hockey on Friday night.
It's coming up soon. I'm curious, Gary, when you're watching practice like this, a full team skate, the last full team skate before a game, what are the things that you're looking for?
Well, I watch individuals quite a bit at practice. I watched Will Carrier yesterday, and he was flying around. And I bumped into him in the parking lot this morning when I arrived.
Yeah.
And I said, "You were going pretty good yesterday, Will." He said, "Yeah, it's getting there. I'm getting closer." And I think he's going to be an important player in this series. When you look at Dallas, they have similar depth up front to that of the Golden Knights.
More depth than they were given credit for initially.
Yeah, they've got a lot of weapons. Robertson, Hintz, Ben, Pavelski,
Heiskanen.
He's going to have 73 assists this year.
9 points in the playoffs.
Yeah. So they've got a lot of weapons there. I don't like their blue line as much as Vegas. I think that probably there's a little bit of a better offensive upside for Dallas than the Golden Knights. I think they're a little older up front. Seguin, Ben, and Pavelski. Those guys are. It'll be interesting to see. If they tail off at all at this stage. They have had some time off here. I think that'll benefit both teams early. But as the series goes on, you watch with Edmonton, they redlined McDavid and Draisaitl. Now McDavid didn't trail off offensively. Draisaitl disappeared in the last 2 games of the series. McDavid still produced, but he was vulnerable defensively late in that series. And those are things that, as the series goes on, you would be looking for that. I'm also watching Shea Theodore because he hasn't been as productive offensively as he has been in the past, and he did have an injury down the stretch. And if he catches fire, which I think he can at any time, boy, that's a real weapon for the Golden Knights as well.
Enough of my questions. Fans are submitting questions. They're doing a great job, so keep them coming. I want to start with Gila Monster Hockey on Twitch. how does the previous coaching relationship impact the series? And there's a lot of layers here, Gary. Not only Pete DeBoer being the former head coach of the Golden Knights, but also assistant coach in Dallas, Steve Spott, being a former assistant with the Golden Knights. Golden Knights assistant John Stevens was with Dallas just last year, and then Ryan Craig and Misha Donskov have worked under Pete DeBoer. So there's a lot of connection between these coaching staffs.
Yeah, I don't think there's any bad blood between the coaching staffs. And Bruce actually said yesterday, I don't want to beat Pete any more than anyone else because
he's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. I like Pete. That's exactly what he said. First and foremost, the motivation could not be any bigger at this point in time. The motivation is to get to the Stanley Cup. You 4 more games, and you're in the Stanley Cup final. I think that's the number one motivation. I think you got to be really careful about letting, does Pete DeBoer hate the Golden Knights organization because they fired him? I don't know. He went to Dallas and got a raise. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, these coaches get fired. For whatever reason, there's not a fit with the roster or with management or whatever. Bruce Cassidy got fired, and the Boston Bruins must be looking right now and thinking, we fired him, and he went to a new team. He won 51 games here last year, went to a new team and won 51 games with them.
Yep.
First coach ever to do that in NHL history. Back-to-back 51 win seasons with different organizations. But now he's in the conference final and potentially heading to the Stanley Cup. That can't be lost on them. Does Pete want to beat Vegas? Pete wants to beat whoever is in his way to getting the Stanley Cup, and Bruce wants to beat whoever's in his way, and their staffs are included in that. And Jim Nill doesn't want to beat Kelly McCrimmon any more than he wants to beat anybody else for it's the Cup. You got a chance to get to the Cup. That's it. That's the motivation.
And it's going to be crazy at T-Mobile Arena tomorrow. We're going to be telling you this a lot through the show, but make sure you get there early because Toshiba Plaza opens at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There's going to be stuff going on all day. As we know, there's lots of construction around the arena. It's not too difficult to get there, but we want you to get there early to completely take it out of the equation. We want everyone in their seats prior to puck drop. Everyone needs to wear gold as well, Gary. I got my hands on the How About Those Vegas Golden Knights gold t-shirt. If anyone needs gold to wear, how about those Vegas Golden Knights? You're big on Twitter, so you probably know about this. And most of our viewers probably know about this because a lot of them or all of them who are watching on digital channels. But after every win, the social media team tweets at a random time. Could be 2:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. How about those Vegas Golden Knights?
It's a good tweet.
I love it. It's a great tweet. It's simple, and now it's on a t-shirt, a gold t-shirt, so you can wear it and fit right in. Wear your gold,
awesome.
Everyone.
It's a nice t-shirt, actually.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, beautiful.
The Arsenal. Go down there.
Yes.
We'll get you
I like
one.
the Arsenal.
It's great.
Yeah, I like to go out there, and often when I'm there'll be, fans of the team, and they recognize me sometimes and want to chat.
Who doesn't?
Lots of people don't.
I don't know. When we walk through Canada, Gary Lawless, we hit Winnipeg and Edmonton. In fact, in Edmonton, I'm prepared for it in Winnipeg, but even in Edmonton, a fan stopped Gary while we were walking and said, "You're a legend."
Yes.
We should get that on a t-shirt.
Fan had been
Gary Lawless.
Had been overserved. Big time.
Want to give a couple quick shout-outs because we have a lot of people watching VGK Worldwide. Kareen on Facebook in Hawaii. I apologize if I mispronounce any names as someone whose name is spelled very different than it looks. Right? Oh, yes. Kareen. Gunter's on Facebook in Latvia.
Gunter.
I wonder if Gunter knows Teddy Bluger.
The World Championships are in Riga, Latvia right now.
Yep.
Wonder if Gunter's been at the games.
Nick on Facebook in Florida. Gerald on Facebook in Ontario.
Gerald, where in Ontario?
Maybe he'll follow up.
Does it say?
It doesn't say.
Gerald, let us know where in Ontario.
Maybe he'll send us another
There's a town in Ontario
comment.
called Geraldton. Maybe he's in Geraldton.
That'd be nice. Sigmund on Facebook in Germany. Angelica on Facebook in Sweden. And the Vegas Nighthawks are watching on YouTube. Shout out, friends.
Excellent.
So now, Gary, it looks like they've probably gone through line rushes, which is something that we watch for, anticipating the same lineup that we saw toward the end of last round. No reason to expect anything different.
Yeah, Michael Amadio could go back in, I think. that would be a consideration
Yeah.
for Bruce, because he wasn't taken out for poor play. I think that Bruce saw a matchup that Teddy Bluger could help him with and put him in for that reason. So, maybe they want Nick Waugh back at center on that fourth line, especially if Carrier is starting to feel a little bit better offensively. So, and maybe they don't do anything for game one, but they get to, maybe they decide after watching they go to it for game two. That's, big strength for Vegas. Right now they've got Amadio, Kessel, Cotter, Dorofeev, Hutton, Pahal. All of those guys are available to Bruce Cassidy if he decides he wants to tweak his lineup a little bit.
And if Paul Cotter were to ever go in, I'm mostly only saying this to get to another story, but he could be quite offensive because he's lucky at the moment, or maybe skilled. He had an ace this week at TPC Las Vegas.
I walked into a restaurant last night, and Paul was seated near the path that I had to take to get to my table, and he let me know that he had scored a hole-in-one.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, he's feeling good about his golf game. That probably means he's feeling good about his hockey game as well.
Probably. I know if I were to get a hole-in-one, I'd be feeling good about just about everything except the pocketbook, because you have to buy the round of drinks after the hole-in-one, right? Isn't that the way tradition goes?
Well, you're supposed to buy for the whole clubhouse.
Yeah, see. Pocketbook would be hurting for sure.
Yeah.
Gary, let's take a quick break from us and just let everyone listen to what's going on at practice for a bit.
Well, everyone will be happy about that.
Looking like a fast-paced skate out there, which is typically the case when run by Bruce Cassidy. Doesn't take a lot of breaks. They go over all the drills before and kind of just go, go, go. So that's what we like to see. Welcome back to the Realm Report presented by Station Casinos. Ashley Bice, Gary Lawless. A reminder of just everything that we have on deck coming up for the show. Not only are we going to continue to watch practice like this, but we will also hear from multiple players as well as Bruce Cassidy and General Manager Kelly McCrimmon. So be sure to stick with us and send us your questions. In fact, we're going to answer a couple more viewer questions right now. Gary, Cartane on Twitch asks, does it benefit VGK to have only played 11 games so far to Dallas's 13?
I think a little bit, but you know, there is a theory that when Vegas got to the Stanley Cup in 2017-18, they took 4 games, beat LA in 4, won 6 with San Jose, 5 with Winnipeg, and then they had to wait a long time for Washington. Yeah. By the time they got to the final, they'd only played, you know, how many games is that? 15 games.
Yeah.
In, I think it was like 6 weeks. And it wasn't enough hockey. 5 weeks, I think it was. It wasn't enough. So, you know, they're not anywhere near that stage right now. I think it is a benefit, especially with, you know, you've got some key pieces that play a lot of minutes and block a lot of shots. I think really about Martinez and McNabb and Pietrangelo maybe more than anybody else. Obviously, Mark Stone has had back surgery. You probably want to give him a little bit of rest as well, but you don't want to fall at a sink. And, you know, I think that's a factor. But right now, I think this is perfect.
What other questions we got? Chrissy on Twitter, how do the players celebrate a victory?
Ah, you know this better than me. You go ahead.
So the post-game celebration, We Are Never Going Home, or maybe it's just Never Going Home by Kungs. It's a banger, let me tell you. It's a good song. Stream it, download it. I listen to it more often than I'd like to admit. That's the win song. So first of all, that plays when they walk into the locker room. Although afterwards, it's a combination. Oftentimes down there, you'll hear Dancing Queen by ABBA blaring from down there. And also Take Me Home is pretty frequently played there after a win. So first they do that, and then it's the player of the game recognition, and that involves Elvis wig, Elvis glasses. I believe that was came up. I believe Jack Eichel came up with that. They were trying to figure out what they were going to do. He sent the idea to Mark Stone, said, "What do you think about this?" And he said, "I like it. Let's give it a shot." Next thing you know, there's an Elvis in the locker room.
We got a little bit of a look into that with Marchessault after he. After Game 6, he had to go do the ESPN interview after the game. So I think he got to go into the room for a little bit, then had to go out and do ESPN, and then when he came back into the room, there was quite a bit of the guys were really happy to see him at that point in time.
Do you have a favorite person that you have seen so far in the Elvis getup?
Oh, interesting. No, I think they all look pretty cool in it. Nick Hague, actually, I thought I enjoyed Nick's moment in the sun there, if you will.
Yep.
Nick's one of my favorite guys.
Why is that? Elaborate.
Well, Nick's an original draft pick, so I met him. He came in, the Golden Knights selected him in the second round of the amateur draft in June of 2018. Everybody else is gone. They drafted Glass 6, Suzuki 10, and then Brandstrom a little bit after that. I might have those numbers a little mixed up. I know Suzuki went 6. I know Glass went 6. But anyways, those guys, you know, I got to meet them all. They were just kids. Like Nick Hague was 18, 19 years old. It's funny. Every once in a while I see his draft day picture, and he looks completely different. So you know you have a different relationship with that type of player. You know, Carlson and Marchessault. I know those guys real well because they were, you know, originals. Smith as well, Carrier, Theodore, Whitecloud. I know quite well. Zach showed up in the press box in Buffalo right after he'd been signed. So, anyways, Nick has always, he's always had questions for me. And we've always had a pretty open relationship, and able to talk all the time. So I enjoy him for sure.
Does the role that he's taken on here, you certainly saw it last series in the situation with Darnell Nurse, and he also had a really good scrap toward the end of the regular season. I'm blanking on who that was with, but does that role change anything in terms of maybe how people approach this team or how people approach him? Because there's not as much fighting as there used to be, but man, is he a good fighter when he wants to be, when he decides to?
Derek Englund has talked to me about this and said, Nick doesn't need to fight every night, but if he fought, 3 or 4 times early in a season and let everybody know what he was capable of in that regard, he'd get a lot more room. And if you know when you're going back to get the puck that the guy on your heels is going to pull up a little bit because he doesn't want to get tangled up with Nick Hague, gives you an advantage. So now listen, it's real easy for anyone else to say it's a good idea for him to fight once in a while. It's not a fun thing to do, although Nick thoroughly seems to enjoy it.
He does. He seems pumped, doesn't he, afterwards?
Yeah, big time, yeah.
He was there laughing with Brett Howden. He's another guy who I think would like to continue to show some physicality as the playoffs go on. I want to give a quick shout out to Carlos, who is currently at work at the Bellagio. Thanks,
Carlos.
Thanks for making work a little more, hopefully, entertaining. That's obviously because we're watching the guys skating, not because you're listening to us. Derek from the Red Earth Cafe. Oh, sorry. The Red Earth Cree Nation in Saskatchewan. I hope I did not mispronounce that. I certainly apologize if I did. Mark in North Pole, Alaska. Keep sending us your check-ins. Keep sending us your questions as well. Edward Rashuda on Facebook asks,
I recognize that name.
Which player is the most low-key? What a good question. That's a good question. The most low-key. I would like you can go ahead and give your answer first.
Braden McNabb. Very low-key.
Okay. I have to really think about this.
Carlson is pretty chill.
Lauren Brossois got to be up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't let that slip.
There's a lot of relaxed guys on this team. Boy,
yeah.
This mic is...
Well, we've been getting all juiced up for tomorrow's matchup, but the Eastern Conference Final begins tonight between the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. What do you make of that series?
I think Carolina will win. I like their depth a little bit more than Florida's, but Florida's got some magic going right now, that's for sure. We'll see. It's a good coaching matchup. Rod Brindamore played for Paul Maurice, and they went to the Stanley Cup Final. I think they might have gone twice together, maybe just once. I'm not sure. But there's a good connection and a good matchup there. Tkachuk in Florida, obviously. It's funny. Gordon Weigers was telling me that there was a tweet with what's the star for the basketball star for the. Yeah, Jason Tatum. I guess he and Matthew Tkachuk went to the same elementary school. And I saw this video last night on TNT. Gordon told me about it ahead of time, but then TNT played it last night. And it's Jason Tatum when he's in middle school talking about what he likes about the school, and he likes basketball. And he says, and I like my pal Matthew Tkachuk. And there's Tkachuk in the background of this little video, and he doesn't look much different then than he does now. He might have a bit of a better haircut, but anyways, he's obviously an X factor for Florida in that series as well. But I do think I like Carolina in that series.
Chaminade, the name of the high school, by the way.
Okay.
Did a quick Google search. Spent a few years in the area myself, so figured I could maybe help out there.
What area is that?
Chaminade. I actually don't know exactly.
This is St. Louis?
Yes, it is in St. Louis. Yes. Do you think that juice that Florida is riding on, do you think that's what it is? Do you think it's just that they're on a really hot run? Or
they won the President's Trophy last year.
Yeah.
Right? And they got rid of a perimeter player in Huberdeau and brought in an interior presence in Tkachuk. Like, they got better. I don't know why they, needed to get in on the second to the last day. For whatever reason, it didn't click there this year until the very end. But no, they're a good team for sure. I don't their success when you think of how good they were last year shouldn't be a surprise.
Do you expect that to be a pretty physical matchup? with Kachuk and with Carolina has a pretty big back end as well.
Yeah, no, there'll be some physicality in that series for sure. Yes.
Who do you got in the series?
Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Darren Millard is walking in, as is Shane Knighty. They'll be taking over for us soon. Gary's ready for his nap.
I am.
We'll take a quick listen into practice here in a bit, but want to go around and give you a few of those reminders again about tomorrow. Toshiba Plaza opens at 1 p.m., so get there early, a 5:30 game time. So get there early. There's going to be traffic, but there's going to be plenty to do on Toshiba Plaza. When you get there, make sure you wear gold. I think we might have an extra question coming in.
Pat McAfee's watching us right now. How's it going, Pat?
Say hello to the viewers of the Pat McAfee Show. Mark Stone will be on there after practice. What a get. Mark Stone and Pat McAfee.
That'll be good stuff.
That'll be must-see television, everybody. Speaking of Mark Stone, we might as well talk about him for a bit.
Yeah, he's been good.
How impressed have you been with the way he came in Game 1, round 1, and the difference that he's made?
Yeah, game 1 of the Winnipeg series, I think it was his worst game of the playoffs, and that was probably he was nervous about his back and just trying to figure out the pace of everything. Hadn't played since January, but after that, he's been excellent for Vegas. He's played a lot of minutes. He's a number of games in Game 2. You look at the time on ice at the end of the game, and he would be the leading forward for the Golden Knights.
He's averaging 19.35 this postseason.
Yeah,
game.
Which is a good number. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you don't want your forwards. There was like McDavid and Draisaitl had nights when they were almost 25 minutes. You don't want that. Mark is right where you want your elite guys to be.
Well, I'm sure Darren and Shane will talk more about the captain. Also, be sure to check out the Pat McAfee Show, where he will be later. For now, we're going to take a quick break and let you listen to practice as it starts to wind down.
Continuing practice, the last practice before the start of the Western Conference Final between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars, back in Studio 31, but a changing of the crew, just like in the hockey game, right? New group over the board. Darren Millard along with Shane Natty. He's happy to jump over and get inside this program. We're going to hear from Kelly McCrimmon, Bruce Cassidy, several of the players as Media Day takes place today at City National Arena. Adin Hill going through his workout. Let's start there and workout. I know Gary and Ashley touched on it, but after the maintenance day, it puts anything to rest seeing Adin Hill out there and back into the groove going into another start.
I think that's pretty common this time of year. If a guy needs a day, practice is not a priority. It's about games, and if a guy needs an extra day of rest, it's not a big deal. So certainly for those who may be concerned, it's good to see him back on the ice, but ready and good to go off a real strong performance last series.
Boy, you think about it, and we get so involved and focused on the game to game, but big picture, he didn't start the Stanley Cup playoffs and only has a handful of games under his belt.
But they've been good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think getting in late in that one game might help just to get the pace, the intensity of what playoffs are. And for him, just back in game situations, because you can practice all you want. And, you know, a guy who's been a big influence, and he's standing right beside Adin Hill is Sean Burke, what he's done this year with all the goaltenders and their ability to come in and, you know, there's so much you can do on technical, but I think maybe Burke's strength has been, the mental focus of it. He played the position for a long time in the National Hockey League. He's a calming presence, and I think he's been beneficial for these goalies. And another guy I think as well is Jonathan Quick, the veteran who's been in these situations, and he's really bought into being a guy to help goaltenders with not much experience. Hill, Brossoit, who have played so far here in the playoffs. It's a pretty good voice to have behind you if you want to bounce some things off. And so those two guys just bring experience. Certainly Burke, the coach, and Jonathan Quick, just a veteran voice and someone to talk to for these guys, because talk about the physical grind. It's as much physical. It might even be more mental this time of year to push yourself through these situations. And in a goaltender, the ability to wash away a bad play or a bad goal. You look at Adin Hill's last game. A couple goals early in Game 6 and then just locked it down, 39 straight saves. So that to me is strength, mental strength, the ability to turn it around in game, in that moment, in that situation where you need it the most.
And Adin Hill is a guy that Sean Burke wanted, went to bat for when the organization was looking for a goaltender and some insurance at that position in the summer following the decision by Robin Leonard to go through the surgery process.
Well, and what they like, good size, athleticism, and then certainly someone that's coachable is the other aspect of it, that can learn and work on the technical parts of the game and really build from there. So I think, Sean Burke, knowing him from when he was with the Coyotes, and, saw something there. I'm not going to pretend to understand the position and be able to evaluate and kind of project what a goaltender's ceiling will be. I have no clue. But that's, what goaltending coaches and staff do is if they see something in a guy, I think first and foremost is you look for size. He's a big guy, covers a lot of the net. He moves really well. And then, you work on the game just like any other position where you're a skater. You're always working on your foot speed, your edge work, your stick handling, your passing, all those details of the game, face-offs. And so for a goaltender, it's different. You'd know more. You kind of play the position.
Kind of.
That's a stretch. But you put the equipment on and you play in games.
Stand there. And what impresses me about Adin is he uses his athleticism more than I thought he would. I had him sort of penciled into a blocker style, but he can read, react, and get desperate and come up with saves along that line.
When he has to.
Yes,
I think that's
exactly
it. It's, the way I think the goaltenders here are wanted to play behind this defensive system is more of, just stop the puck. Positional goalies, be big, read through the defensive system, traffic, the ability, and then off that, you got to have that reactionary ability to stop pucks,
a lot of guys have the first half
and
can't get too boxed into that.
Or where they can be over aggressive, over
Yeah.
athletic in a sense. And I think in today's game it's tough to push out of position because the players are so skilled. They're unafraid now to make that extra pass to the other side and find ways to score goals because they're creative. So I think now you're looking for a goalie that's a little more positional, that still has that athletic ability. You don't get to this level unless you have athleticism. That's why you're not.
You can't laugh at your own joke.
Well, I'm just looking at you. I can tell.
I once was told by a boss, never wear a T-shirt on the air again. And look what I'm doing today, wearing this T-shirt.
Well, it's a
filling
good thing
it
we're
up.
showing practice.
Some check-ins coming your way in just a little bit, but Gila Monster Hockey on Twitch wants to know, what's Dave Gaucher doing today, just slacking the day away? You're the one around him all the time.
I don't know what he's doing. He's here. He's watching practice, doing notes. He's probably...
Notes are important.
I don't know what he's doing. That's
All
a good
right.
question, actually.
Shane Anthony on YouTube asks, what will it take to get Shea Theodore going? Also wants to know how to get Gary's autograph. Shane, if I would have...
I can answer both those.
Okay.
I'll start with the first one, last one, second one. Who would want Gary's autograph? And then...
Good way to ruin a piece of paper.
And Shea Theodore, I think that's a great question, and they need to get him going. I think, and if you were to ask Shane, if you want to be honest, he's got to elevate his game. He's a key piece here that can take his game another step. I think there's a level, and I think for him it all starts with his feet. He's got to move. He's a guy that has the ability. You're going to go against the Dallas team where it's going to be very important to take away pressure of their forecheck, and you can do that two ways. And Theodore's, maybe the best at moving his feet, the ability to skate out of traffic. And number two, he's a real good that first pass type defenseman where he can read the play, read the rush. But he's got to do it under pressure. He's got to be willing, to take a hit on certain plays. And I expect Shea's game to go up here in this round. I really think he can be a difference maker, and they need him to be one.
Love asking these questions where I really have no clue in the answer, but you are aware that some players fit a style of an opponent better than the others. Does Shea's approach translate against Dallas to be better than it was against Edmonton? Or is it about the same?
I think this time of year it's not. You've got to play your game regardless of the opponent. I think it's a more physical, grinding game. You've got to be able to buy into going in and winning those one-on-one battles. You've got to have a willingness that, hey, you're going to take some hits. You're going to have to take a hit to make a play. So there's elements of that aren't going to change. I think it's going to be more of an aggressive forecheck. Edmonton got physical in a couple of those games. I think Dallas is even more of a physical team. They're a more deep team. You got to be prepared to make the right plays and to go back hard for pucks. And I think for him, if he moves his feet, sometimes when, a bad habit as a defenseman, and I remember a lot of my D coach say you never stop. When you stop moving your feet is when you put yourself in trouble. And you can, even if you're not the best and can't skate out of traffic, moving your feet might open another option. Shea Theodore moving his feet can open a ton of options because he's so mobile, he's so quick, so fluid on his skates that I think that's where it's got to start with him, his feet, and then the rest of his game follows.
Don't make fun of me here. But what does it mean? I know, and that's why I preface it. What does it mean, move your feet?
Well, when you stop, when you get the puck and you come to a standstill, right? That's not moving your feet.
All right, that's what I was wondering, because there's sometimes without the puck you can be standing still.
It's a fast-moving game, and sometimes you hesitate for that second, and because it's such a fast game, that second you hesitate, that could be that could end an option. As long as you're moving, making a play, got support. Obviously, your D partner needs to be there to support the puck, talk, communication, all those things come in, and it happens at a high level of speed. And that's why the game's getting faster and faster in all areas.
So if you start gliding, you're behind the eight
glide.
ball.
Yeah, keep moving your feet.
All right, Shane Knighty with us, watching the final practice before the start of the Western Conference Final, and a 5:30 face-off on Friday. All kinds of activities going on at Toshiba Plaza. That starts at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and then the doors open 90 minutes before puck drop, nighttime at 5 o'clock. And then we will watch the game either on ESPN, listen to the game on the flagship station of the Vegas Golden Knights, Fox Sports Las Vegas 98.9 and 1340 AM. I'm going to run through some names. Bruce, John, Misha, Ryan, and Sean. That's the coaching staff, on-ice coaching staff of the Vegas Golden Knights. And a little unusual, they will all have a pretty significant part to play in this series because of the coaching connection that is in place with Dallas.
Yeah, you heard Bruce Cassidy talk about it. You know, the big question, everybody just assumes Pete DeBoer has the inside being here. Well, John Stevens was with Dallas last year. Ryan and Misha worked with Pete, so they know kind of maybe some tendency on how he coaches, how he thinks in game in certain situations. So I think, there's no secret. Everybody's trying to look for an edge at this time of the year, and you utilize the tools that you have. And, knowing it's all that said, and I'm a big believer, they're gonna game plan this. Everybody's gonna come out, but until that first game happens, there's really nothing. That's when the adjustments and in-game, whether in-game or whether game-to-game start to happen, is once the players go out and play the game. So, but that, the coaches have been impactful all season long. They've got an incredible coaching staff here. You mentioned all the guys and all the different things they've done. Bruce Cassidy's come in and certainly put together this staff. It's incredible job, some in-game adjustments. You look at Teddy Bluger coming in.
And just watching this, Shane, it looks like Will Carrier is almost playing the part of Joe Pavelski. Am I? No,
you're not wrong.
Okay.
That's going to be, so if you want to change subjects already before I can answer that one.
So I was just watching this live, and I wanted to make sure that we
Well, that's going to be a key, right? Dallas is the best tip team in the league. They go to the front of the net. That's how they execute a lot of their offense is low to high pucks to the net, and they have some of the best guys, Joe Pavelski, the best right now in the world, at deflecting pucks. So interior ice is going to be so important, especially, in their own end in particular, because they have those guys. So if you can't move that, you're going to want to be able to get control of the stick as a defenseman, whether you're knocking it down, depending on whether it's a high shot coming in, low shot, you're going to have to be aware and then try and get a stick-on-stick check. And then at the other end, interior ice, Dallas has got a strong D core, big, and they protect the front of the net. And then if you can get through that interior ice, they got a pretty good goalie in Jake Ottinger. We've seen what he's done. We can go back to the 2020 playoffs and, if you want a bad memory of what happened with Vegas versus him then. So he's a really good goaltender, so it's going to be important on both sides of the puck. And just, I mentioned Bruce Cassidy, John Stevens, defensive coach, what he's been able to do this year. You can see him working with the D.
They're using the hockey balls and the sponge pucks for blocking shots, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's better than real pucks. You don't want anybody to get hurt this time
True.
of year. But yeah, John Stevens, I think he's been incredible. You look at all the defensemen they've used this year. And that's the thing that's been incredible. The depth. You go back to the injuries all season long. John Stevens, that defensive core has changed, but he's had confidence in all those guys. Real smart guy who's been a head coach in this league. He's won in this league. Really, really understands it. Ryan Craig, does a lot of details. Face-offs. He works with these guys, and you look at what Chandler Stevens and Carlson for face-offs, their percentages going up this season. And then Sean Burke with the goaltending. Misha Donskoff, who works with these guys when they return from injury. And you look at how prepared they've come back, and he's probably done more work than he's wanted in the last 2 years. But, all of them have had a piece of it to the success of this team being to this point. And they'll best prepare them, but when it comes to the ice time, that's on the players to go out and execute.
Magnus and Anders in Sweden is watching. Tony on Facebook says, I'll be watching from the northernmost Golden Knights bar, the Red Fox Bar and Grill in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Magnus Arvidsson.
Oh, yeah.
Ottawa.
He was a good player.
Yeah, could fly. Yeah. Big, strong.
Strong. That's what jumps out. Patty Mano in Jackson, Michigan. Holding down the Mano household.
Holding it down.
Well, the Mano's here. We're doing it. So Patty's keeping things locked in. Sherry and Bob in Pahrump and Drew in Vancouver until his big move to Saskatoon. You ever spend any time in Saskatoon?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do the Kelly Chase fantasy camp there.
Oh, boy.
That was a great time. Had some
That,
fun in Saskatoon.
on 8th Street, I'm sure. Psalming on YouTube in Finland, also watching right now. And Saturday's practice, as we work our way into this series, will feature tons of fun at City National Arena, including a pizza party, street hockey outside, a DJ, and a lot more. So come and check it out. Scheduled in and around 11:30 on Saturday. As practice winds up, we'll get you to the media availability involving the general manager, the architect of the Vegas Golden Knights, Kelly McCrimmon. We'll also hear from Coach Bruce Cassidy and several players along the way as both teams, Dallas arriving in town this afternoon, and Vegas opens up at home for the third straight series.
Well, I'm excited. Let's play some games. It seems like forever. Game tonight, which is nice in the East. Yeah, it's rare in playoffs. You get used to watching so much hockey, and I've kind of been bored the last 3 nights.
Yeah, what have you been doing?
I worked on the golf game yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It was actually good, better than I thought, but
Well,
nobody was there to see.
A
I
couple
always think there's a random thought as I was hitting about 3 or 4 balls per hole because it was quiet. I went later, and what would happen if I got a hole in one by myself? Do you count that?
No, it doesn't count.
No.
It doesn't count.
Yeah.
Gordon's done it.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
I
think
mean,
either.
you can
Like, who's
count
gonna
it
believe you?
yourself. Yeah, I wouldn't believe you here.
Like
Look at
Gosher is a guy who would go out and say he got it for sure, and he wouldn't.
it. You got to live with yourself. Here's
Yeah.
Jack working at the end of practice. Boy, is he a rink rat.
He is always, every practice, he loves to be on the ice. And you see this from a lot of the guys that have high skill and come up now. They love being on the ice, putting in the work, constantly working on the craft, whether it's the shot, whether it's stick handling skills. And this is a fun drill. This is kind of the end of the day drill here. They shoot, probably rebound game. Used to do this.
What causes the rotation? So Jack just missed the net. So
Well, if the rebound
Yeah,
goes to the boards,
Yeah.
then it's dead puck. You got to
Goalie
rotate.
wins?
Yeah, the goalie wins. So, yeah, he'll try and shoot here. You either shoot, score over there. Shoot for a rebound, a little soft shot, and a goal.
look at that. He kept
Oh,
it out.
He kept it out. Oh, it's a
Nobody
tough
else makes
monitor.
that save, other than
Yeah,
Jonathan Quick
yeah,
doing
he's-
stuff
he-
like that.
Talk about athletic, his ability. Quick. He's quick.
So Rachel on Facebook says, how valuable is it having an experienced veteran like Jonathan in the locker room for the young goaltenders? Lauren Brossoit was public in how much he has bounced stuff off Jonathan Quick during the first round and a half about how to handle different stretches in a game.
And just overall, I think, in the room, when you have experience and you have veteran voices, and this is where I'm a big believer in, successful teams that win the cup is, everybody has a different role. And even if it isn't on ice, sometimes it's off ice. He's been through, you think you lose a game or you lose 2. He's been in every scenario. And they've got, a few guys like that.
He was down 3-0 in a
Exactly.
series and came back.
San Jose.
Yeah.
So their first cup. So there's an ability there to speak player to player on how to handle, and you keep a belief alive, which you have to at this time. You cannot falter on that. You got to believe in your group. You got to believe in yourself, and you have to do it collectively as a team to win at this time of the year, regardless of situation, regardless of a win or a loss. It's about staying. We always hear you're never too high, too low. I know that's pretty cliche, but it's so true because the end goal, winning a game, winning a series, that's not the end goal. The end goal is when you finally lift something above your head. And we know what that is, if you can get the cup. So till you get to that point, there's minor victories and you move on. But instead, all the work they've put into this point and how hard it's been, they're just halfway there. And I think a guy like Jonathan Quick, Alex Pietrangelo, Alec Martina, guys that have been there, done that, Phil Kessel and Kessel and Quick would kind of be the two right now because they're not there on the bench, but they're in the room and still have an important voice that carries weight when they speak.
You go back a couple of years, this team didn't have a lot of Stanley Cup presence. There was a couple, but now they've really added to that. Do you think that makes a big influence on the team?
I think it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial to have that in the room and have that experience. Does it guarantee anything? No, it does not. But I think it's certainly beneficial for a group to have experience and guys that have been there, done it, gone to the end, so they understand and they know how hard it is. And they know that it's never, there's never a team that just goes 16-0 and say, woohoo, we won. There's going to be a lot of bumps. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be things that challenge you. And they've been through it. So, they have a clearer view of what that looks like.
Kelly McCrimmon in just a little bit, then Bruce Cassidy, and a few of the players, including Alex Pietrangelo. We invite you to check in with us. Let us know where you're watching from, if you've got a question or a comment regarding what the Vegas Golden Knights have done through the first 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup postseason. There's a high five between Sean Burke and Jonathan Quick. Saw Ben Hutton out in the ice as they wrap up the informal part of this practice. I thought there was a great quote from Bruce Cassidy yesterday. It's now about the big prize.
Yeah.
And that is different. The first round, you're just
4
trying
teams
to
left,
get
right?
something going, right?
You start with 60, now it's been got cut in half, now cut in half again. So I think, when you get to the conference finals, that's where really, the focus is on the prize. It hurts whenever you get eliminated, but it gets more painful the longer you go. So, as much as you lose in the first round, everybody is disappointed and it hurts and it stinks. You lose in the second round, it stings more. You lose now, it really, really stings. And of course, the closer you get, the more pain that comes with a loss. So, but at the same time, you start to recognize, okay, we're there. But you got to put that off. There's still work to do. There's this round, and you really don't look beyond that first game. They're going to start here tomorrow at home. I think it's about getting off on the right foot, having the good start. And regardless of what happens in game 1, it's just one game. Then you move on from that.
I thought it was an interesting comment because so much from professional athletes is pushing the accomplishment to the side and just focusing on the moment.
Yeah.
But admitting that now they've reached a stage where you do think about this Stanley Cup.
That's human nature, right? How can you not? You've got to recognize. I think it's not a bad thing to recognize that, hey, we're getting closer. But at the same time, living in the moment is. I think players have no problem doing that because you do it all season long. You try not to look too far ahead. You don't want to look back. You just try to focus. And as much as maybe some guys do put it, once you're in game, all that outside noise is gone. You're in game. You're in the moment, and that's all the focus is on at that point.
Bruce Cassidy and Kelly McCrimmon before the players will step to the podium at the Vegas Golden Knights media room. Practice starting to wrap up. Here's a question that I can't answer, but what do you think is more of a motivation? Coming off the non-playoff year last year, or this being the 4th time to the Final Four and being this close and trying to win your first cup? Because you said the further you go along, the more it hurts.
Yeah, and I think the way in which they were eliminated from playoffs last year maybe stung a little bit more, having being in first place heading into the All-Star break, coming out of the All-Star break, and then, collapse. Certainly injury had a big impact on that for Vegas. And then it's never, I think it's never a bad idea to kind of go down memory lane and remember being close and how much it sucked not to move on. So I think anything you can pull from that's going to motivate you, and different guys are going to use different things that are going to push them ahead.
What pushed you?
The extra. I hated to lose, so I'm a little bit competitive. Mm-hmm. I get angry. When I got angry, I got good. See, that's why I carry it around.
Why you're one of the best in the business, because you're angry all the time.
But yeah, I think that's and just that and. That's why I love team sports is you're in it together, right? And the big thing is, always believing you can win. Regardless of the situation, in game, out of game, if you're down 3-1, you got to still believe you can come back. You got to work and not change everything. Just the dynamics of team, everybody coming together to accomplish a common goal is a fantastic thing, and it's truly amazing when it can happen. I wish every player could have that experience. I was fortunate enough to be part of it once, and it really is because you guys work so hard to play at this level, and I'd love to see everybody have the experience of raising the Stanley Cup, but it doesn't happen that way, and we'll see. I'm excited for this series to start. I think it's going to be harder. The first series was hard. Edmonton, you knew was going to be a challenge.
The first series was more difficult than the 5 games, because game 1 loss, and then the first period where Brossoit was spectacular and kept them in game 2.
Yeah, and double overtime.
And then game 3, yeah.
So it was closer than the 5 games. So it was hard to, and now it's going to go up another level. It constantly does that as playoffs build, and the closer you get.
Stay with us, everybody. Kelly McCrimmon from down in the VGK Media Lounge and Media Center. That's coming up straight ahead. Of course, ties to Brandon with Kelly McCrimmon, and Alona is watching in Brandon, Manitoba right now, your birthplace. Jeff is in Utah.
I grew up in Nipawin, though. That's 45 minutes away.
45 minutes.
I was only there 6 months.
But you were born. I didn't even know you when I would look at different things on players' bios, and I said, "Oh, Shane Hannity was born in Brandon." That's kind of cool.
It still bothered my mom and dad because I lived in Nipawin my whole youth, but I don't remember Brandon. But I went there a lot.
Emily on Earth is watching right now. Good to check in with you. Brody in Cape Breton, Steve in Reno, and Kev over at Zappos in downtown Las Vegas. Not a bad place to hang out. Yeah. We can do that. When you evaluate as they pick up the pucks after practice, and we'll get to Kelly McCrimmon in just a little bit with Media Day, a lot of outside media, national media coming into this. When we look ahead to Dallas, what are some names that are going to be talked about as we get through this weekend of the games 1 and 2?
Well, Rope Hens, 19 points already in playoffs. He's a star. What he's been able to do. Jason Robertson's scary because he hasn't produced
2 goals so far, but
he had 46 this year. Mm-hmm. And players like that eventually are going to come out. And then that's the line. That line, you throw Joe Pavelski on there, and then I think Jamie Benn, he plays the game hard. I think Tyler Sagan's picked up his game, and Miro.
That's been fun to watch. Sagan.
Yeah, and Miro Heiskanen is just. He is a dynamic defenseman. Talk about a number 1 young star defenseman. He is really good. When he played over 30 minutes there in their last game. Just he's got a great stick. He moves. He can skate. He can fly. He's a really good defender. Yet he has high-end offensive abilities. And then Jake Ottinger's, we'll see what he can do. He came out of the net a couple of times. Seattle was able to get to him, so I think that's certainly you're going to look at some of the film on how they were able to do that. Sean Burke is usually when you get to playoffs, so you get all these different videos, and I know it's changed since I've been there, but also the goalie coach comes in and talks about tendencies of the other goalie. They'll have a breakdown of where goals are scored, how they're
really effective against Winnipeg.
Yeah, and you really. I think it's important to look at that. But yeah, Dallas they're a complete team. So where Edmonton was more, you had that, 2 best players in the world, and that was your focus, and this power play that's off the charts. Dallas is a deeper team, more complete team in my opinion. They have some, really good players, some stars.
Well, Hintz has 1 less point than McDavid.
I know, and then their power play is really good too in Dallas. So. The penalty kill, special teams are going to be important once again here in this series, and I think you're going to see a team that can more match with the 4 lines. So it'll be interesting how the matchups play out here in this series, or whether they worry about them at all and just
you might just see roll. Right? Yeah,
that might be the case.
On Heiskanen, defenseman plays so many minutes. He's playing with different people all the time. Right. How difficult, or what's the challenge there from a defense scorer?
I think it's just communication. I think when a guy like him's easy to play with. You're not going to have a problem.
It's not like Vegas where you're going out in pairs all the time.
Yeah, and I think because they're used to it, it's not something new. Everybody knows if you're partnered with Miro, it's pretty easy, and he has the ability to not let it phase him. I think communication's always important as long as you're talking to one another and supporting the puck, back on breakouts. regroups, those areas, it's not as big a deal as people think. Certainly, yeah, you'll have chemistry more with one guy than maybe others per se, but that said, you get to this level, you should have the ability to play with anyone.
Who did you play with the most in your career? Do you remember your longest defensive
I played
partner?
with Curtis Lecision
Yeah.
a while in Ottawa. Boston with Mark Stewart, who's the coach, assistant coach with Edmonton now. Where else did I play?
Now, when you saw him in the series against Edmonton, was there like an
I just
acknowledgement
left it
there,
alone.
or
No,
do you
just
don't even
leave
look
it
at each
alone.
other?
He's doing his job.
Yeah.
He needs to be focused.
Because there's some people that would use that
Yeah,
and
I'm
go
not
up and be bro hugs. And
No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
You're not a bro
bothered
hug
people,
guy?
No. I'll just not in that
Come on,
moment.
give me one.
He's in a competitive
give me
situation. I'm not bro hugging you either.
Nadine in New
You
Mexico.
reach your hand out again, you're gonna be in trouble.
Thanks for watching, Nadine. Linda in Las Vegas never misses a stream or a podcast. Steve in Quad City. That's awesome. Big Keegan Colasar fan. And Marianne watching in Dallas but rooting for the Golden Knights.
Interesting
So
scenario.
we've got some support in Big D. Every second day. No 2-day breaks in this series.
That's the way I like it.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's not long travel. It's quick, and to me, that's part of it. That's part of going through. You've got to go through this battle. You don't need more time. Let's go, get it done. That's part of the ability to fight through a tough schedule, a heavy schedule where you're going at it every second night.
Interesting that both coaches are new to their organizations.
Two veteran coaches.
Right.
I think, and I say coaches, I think the biggest part of coach play, and I love coaches that have accountability, coaches that have ability to adjust in game. But the game plan is set. Both guys are going to set it. It still comes down to the players to go out and play. That's where it's at. And
When do you turn the keys over to the players? Is it now, or are you still doing a lot of tactical adjustments?
No, I think at this point, practice, they're not doing anything new out there.
No.
They're just, maybe, certain things we saw, protecting the front end, but they do that before. Other teams are going to tip pucks. It's just a review.
But that looked a
it's
little
reviews
different.
and maybe a couple more details, but for the players, you give them the key. You want them to go. This is their time of year. You prepare them the best you can, make sure they're ready to start the game, and then the game happens. And then the coaching comes in game if there's something they want to change. That's where I think it's really important.
Teddy Bluger came in the second round and did a great job for the Vegas Golden Knights. Ivan Barbashev has been dynamic and a real fit up front for Vegas. And you've got players. Aiden Hill was brought in the offseason. So some turnover on the roster has certainly given this team a little bit more of a base.
I think it's great to have that ability to make those moves or those adjustments as a coach. And, he still has some pretty good players that, you can plug in. Like Teddy Bluger, I think they were watching a lot of clips on coverage against the Oilers, and a lot of the clips they saw from the regular season involved Teddy Bluger being on the right side of the puck. So it came to the point, well, maybe we should put him in here at center, move Waugh up, gives us a little more depth down the middle, an extra centerman, and it's worked out. So will that be the
That's
same?
really interesting how
Yeah.
that came about.
Yeah, that's a little thing that comes up, a little move that really worked out. Bluger has experience. You got Kessler, you got Amati, you got Cotter. You've got guys you can use. Ben Hutton, that Ben Hutton came in and played a regular shift and nothing changed. And I think that's the strength that you build through the regular season because they went through a lot of those scenarios. And goes back to my belief. I think teams that can go on runs, you have to face adversity during the year. And I have a little, in my own mind, because I always have a connection with the Bruins, I'm like, they really didn't have that this regular season. Like, historic regular season, obviously, but just kind of flew through it.
Do you think that's why it
I
caught
don't
up to
know.
them?
I don't know. I'm asking you. What do you think?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I think the other team got hot at the right time. They found it at the right time. Maybe they didn't get as many saves as they would have liked, or coverage things were switched up. They weren't used to making all kinds of tweaks, and you got an experienced head coach in Paul Maurice and a team that found it. I think it has more to do with that than just going through.
Well, I wonder. I like every
adversity.
now and then I think of those things, and
Which path would you rather have, though?
I think it's always good to get in and having had faced some ups and downs in the regular season.
Because I take the easy path every day of my life.
No question.
I do not want any
That does
adversity.
not surprise me.
I would like it just to be smooth sailing with a nice little coasting down the hill with not having to pedal.
Okay.
All right.
Let's not talk about you being on the bicycle.
That's a good point. A bad analogy. Hello to Desert Penguin 71, VGK Titan, and everyone watching on Twitch, and Benjamin in Fribourg, Switzerland. Did you ever get to Switzerland in one of your World Championship escapades?
That was no. I came here to the Golden Knights before, I think a year or two before I had the opportunity, because I lost that part of it when I left TSN in Canada and moved down here, which I'm happy I did, obviously. But yeah, I got to be some great places, but I miss Switzerland. That's on my list of a place to get to.
Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone. How do you describe
Are we just throwing names out, or
that
is your
chemistry? It's pretty unique.
It's unique, but it works because I think Stone has the ability to slow the game down so well, and he's so smart. And Stevenson has the speed and the strength, and I think, in a way, they complement each other because they cover each other's maybe deficiencies a little bit. And I'm not saying they have huge deficiencies, but to me, that's why it works. Like, you're not going to see Stone often as first guy in on the forecheck, and I think that's why Howden's been a perfect addition to that line. Like, he's got, like, for him, and I talked to him, he said his job. And they've watched clips where it's just to go be that first forechecker, get a piece of the guy for a free puck, because all of a sudden Stevenson's got such speed to get in on support, and all of a sudden let him. And he says, if I can get a piece on the forecheck and create, a bobbled or a loose puck, those guys have the ability to come in, get it, and make a play. And they've had success on that. So I think it's just chemistry sometimes works with two guys, but I think they complement each other so well with their skill sets, the way they think the game. And, guys are always talking. Certainly now they got the iPads when they go back and they look at little things, and you can talk about it a little bit more. And
Vegas tweaked the iPad usage during the year, only during TV timeouts.
And I think that's perfect. That it shouldn't be used in game. In game, watch what's going on. And this was a debate earlier in the year. I think John Tortorella was the first one to come in
and then Bruce
talk about it, and then Bruce did. But Tortorella made really good comments about it. About guys should focus on game in that moment.
Let's go to the Vegas Golden Knights Media Center. Jonathan Marchessault, Mark Stone at the podium.
How many times have you had hats in your front lawn?
Only twice. 2 years ago against Colorado, I had a hat trick there, and that was the first time.
Right side. Kevin Wilkie sitting in Vegas for Mark. But how much do you look back on that series in the bubble against Dallas? How much does that come up in this leading into this one?
I'm not so sure it really brings up much. Teams have changed, coaches have changed. I think both teams have different goalies. But yeah, obviously don't want the same results. So, but I don't think that series is really in the back of our minds. We're more worried about the way we've played this year.
Up front. Jesse Grange with The Athletic for Mark. What do you think it's going to be like playing against Pete, and specifically the system that you guys ran for the last few years?
Yeah, I think there's going to be, he knows a lot of our player tendencies, and we know a lot of his coaching tendencies, so they'll probably just cancel each other out. Once the series gets going, we're trying to beat the Dallas Stars, whether they play one way or the other. We had a pretty good game plan going into the Edmonton series, and we hadn't really played much against that coach at all. There's video out there, right? Everybody watches video, so I think everybody has a game plan of what they want to have success against the other team, and it's no different no matter who the coach is.
Yeah. Dan Rosen, NHL.com. It's really for either one of you guys, but it's noticeable the size and the mobility that you guys on your defense group has and how it plays a role. What does that do for you guys as forwards to understand the size back there, and they're also capable of skating, and how does it play a role in this series with the way Dallas definitely likes to funnel pucks towards the net.
It's going to be huge for sure. But we knew before the year that we had probably one of the best D-core in the league. So we're definitely taking that at our advantage. And they throw a lot of pucks in front, and I think the blue paint battles, both sides, are going to be really important. And I thought we did a good job last series, but I mean against Dallas, it's going to be harder. So and to win the ultimate goal here, it's always going to get harder and harder. So it's a challenge that we're definitely looking forward to, and I think that we'll be able to have success.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. This is for either one of you. When you look at sort of not only the series Jack has had, but the experience he's had with you guys, what do you think it's been that's allowed him to succeed on ice with this group, but also off ice, to where it seems like everyone just speaks genuinely highly of the guy, and they seem like they're all homies?
God, it's a good question. I don't know. I think I've said this for I've been here for 5 years now. It's a pretty easy group of guys to jump into. I did it. Petra did it. Everybody who's come in here, there's been a lot of turnover to try and make this team better, and it's been I guess a testament to Jack coming in here and not trying to change anything, just trying to fit in, and that's all guys want here. Is they just want guys to come in, be themselves, fit in with the group, and that allows your on-ice success to happen. You get chemistry with guys off the ice, on the ice. I thought he's done a really good job at that. With him and Marshy and Barbs, they've created chemistry for the last 3-4 months, which has allowed them to have this kind of success. But like I said, it's an easy locker room to be in. Guys love coming to the rink every day, playing for one another, and he's no different.
Jonathan, do you ever reflect on the fact that you came here in expansion draft and now you've been to the Final Four times in 6 years? You've won 9 playoff rounds, more than anyone else than Tampa.
We've definitely done a lot of good things, right? A lot of positive after every season. But at the point where we're at right now, we can't think too far, but the ultimate goal is to win it all, right? So I think that's one thing that Bruce has been doing a lot, is keeping us in the moment, taking one game at a time, and that's a mentality that Gerard was bringing a lot to the first year, just one game at a time right after the beginning of the season. So we're just focusing on tomorrow, and we've done a lot of good things in the past, but that's as strong as a group as if we've ever had here. So we have to take advantage of the situation we're in, and I think every guys believe in each other here.
Mark, this for you. Back in January, did you think that you would still have a chance to play this season, and what does it mean to you that you're sitting here now based on everything that you've gone through?
I did. When I got hurt, this is kind of what, it kind of bothers me about the whole situation. When I got hurt, I knew that I had a week or two to rehab to try and get back to play the rest of the season. That rehab didn't go well. And I knew that the first possible game that I could get cleared to play would be potentially the start of the playoffs. So I made the decision to get the surgery, and I worked hard. I didn't just, float through a rehab. I worked hard because I wanted to be a part of this, and it's paid off for me. I've been able to enjoy the team's success with everybody, and I'm on the ice. I didn't want to miss being a part of it. So I'm just happy with where the team's at and the success that we've had so far. But we're only halfway. But definitely, I knew there's a potential that I could come back and play. Did I know that I would play the first game of the playoffs? No, I didn't. I didn't know that my rehab was going to go that smooth. But fortunately, it did.
We have time for a couple more questions. Last side.
Danny Webster, Las Vegas Sun. John, before Game 3 in Edmonton, how did you kind of stay afloat as far as staying positive, knowing that you were going to find the back of the net eventually? And when it did it seem like something opened up over the last 4 games of that series to where it started to click for you?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes obviously it's hard to get in a slump and get out of it, you know. But I mean, at the time where we were at that time, we were playing some good hockey. Like we didn't necessarily need me to produce at that time. Everybody was chipping in at some point, and it just happened that the past few games I've chipped a little bit more. But I mean, it's a mentality we have this year. It's when it's one guy that steps up, next game might be another guy that steps up, and I think that's the strength of our team is our depth, and it can be any guy any night. And and also when you hit a slump, if you don't get any chances, it's demoralizing. But if you get chances, it's a matter of time, and that's for any offensive player, I think. So yeah, just stick with it. Always stay positive. The next day is a new day. The sun gets up, and put in the work to become better.
Last question, that's right.
John, what's different with the team now that Marky is back and playing?
Well, I mean, the fact that he's on the ice, it's unbelievable. Like, you don't have a lot of guys in the NHL that makes everybody else on the ice look better. And he's the kind of guy who makes everybody on the ice look good when he's there. So he makes your team really that much better. And it just shows by his presence also off the ice how calm he is, how great of a leader he is, because he's the kind of guy that is going to step up in a room and say something, but he's going to bring it on the ice, and that's how you make it a great leader. And it's one of those things that he's just a game changer for us, and he has been ever since he came in Vegas.
Thanks, guys.
We'll hear from Jack Eichel and Aiden Hill. Expected them to join the VGK Media Center in just a little bit. Back in Studio 31, Darren Millard along with Shane Knighty. And Mark Stone, when you talk about his production, what's the best attribute to his game?
It's mine.
Yeah.
100%.
Because defensively he's great. He's a point-per-game player.
Yeah.
He's expressive. He's a great leader.
And it's his mind. He's there's a lot of smart play. Top 5 NHL for hockey IQ, easily. Just thinks the game so well, and he goes to the right spots. He anticipates as good as anyone. Great stick defensively, good positionally, and then he's got incredible hands for that stick, which I'm a right-handed player. If I tried to pick, I don't know if I could raise the puck with his stick, but he makes it
How would
work.
you describe his curve?
Well, it's kind of straight, but he uses a different one for practice than he does in games, which strange.
You know what he uses? An old stock stick and old gloves in practice. Then he's got the great feel.
I tried that. I guess maybe it's a tip out there for anybody trying to come up. He's got great hands, sees the ice very well. Like there's not many weaknesses to his game, right? And he gets around. Like everybody said, his skating, but he's still. Have you ever seen him go for a loose puck on a breakaway? Like I think it was Jonathan Marchessault earlier in the year around the room. He said he's not slow. Have you ever seen him take off for a breakaway?
He never gets caught.
Got like afterburners, but he utilizes it the right way, right? He can slow the game down. He can pick it up. He goes to the right spots. He's got such a good. His stick is like super long and it's strong and. He's a big guy. He's got size. There's just there's a lot of really good elements to his game.
So what do you think is the most underappreciated aspect of his game?
I think skating. Yeah,
that he's faster than he looks.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I think Chandler Stevenson is a more complete player, smarter than he gets credit for in the sense of hockey sense, being around, because everybody talks about his speed so much. And I think the same thing with Mark, that he's faster than he gets credit for.
Yeah, and I think that Stevenson too. Yeah, he's smart. Well, I would like to see, and I'm sure next year there's going to be for him to shoot the puck more. He's got a great shot. And I think he always defers to pass. I think he's a playmaker, but I think there's some more scoring potential. Chandler Stevenson has got. He's strong. He's powerful when he skates. And he said, smart player at both ends of the ice.
Sounds like you're talking about Jack Eichel, who's at the podium along with Aiden Hill.
Ben Goetz, Las Vegas Regional. Aiden, what's it meant to get in the net this postseason, have an opportunity to go on a run with this group?
Yeah, I know it's been exciting. I mean, it's something you dream of growing up as a kid is playing in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. So it's been a fun ride so far, and yeah, just looking to enjoy it day by day.
Stay on the left, second row.
Danny Webster, Las Vegas Sun. Aiden, I'm sure that when you use 5 goalies in an organization, there's a lot of communication amongst you guys. When you went in for Game 3, I guess, were there any conversations with Laurent or anyone else as a group as to kind of help settle you in and get to where you guys are at now?
No, not really. I don't know. There's not really any settling things to say when you come in partway through a game. It's just kind of you grow up, you getting used to it, and you have to be ready, right? So it's just making sure when you're not playing that you're ready to go in and working hard every day in practice, know that you're ready for the opportunity.
Right side.
Jack, considering everything you've been through in your career, what does it feel like? What is it like for you now to be hearing after 2 rounds your name associated with reasons why a team is winning in the playoffs, associated with if you're looking at Conn Smythe leaders through 2 rounds, Jack Eichel's got to be in that mix as well. What does that mean to you now?
Just want to try and help do my part. We have a lot of guys that have stepped up through the course of the playoffs and the regular season. So just trying to enjoy the moment and play my game when my number's called and, make an impact on the game. But it's been a fun experience, obviously a new one for me. It's like Hilly touched on, it's everyone's dream to be playing in the playoffs and, the opportunity to play in the conference finals here. It's a big one for our group, so, want to try and take advantage of it.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. Jack, this question's for you. When you think about when you first came here to now, what would you say it's been that's allowed you to kind of sort of ingratiate yourself in this group where when guys talk about you and what it's like to be around you, everyone's just like, yo, he's a cool dude, mad nice homie. So what's it been like to kind of have that work? And why do you look like Patrick Mahomes?
I haven't got a haircut in a little bit, so it's a little dicey right now. Yeah, listen, I mean, it's a really good locker room in there. You have everything from, a couple young guys, you get the Paul Cotters and the rookies and, to some veterans that have played a lot of hockey in this league. And I think that, everyone brings something different to the group. And, we've done a good job gelling as a team this year. And I think everyone enjoys each other's company. And I think with that, it just kind of allows you to be yourself every day. And the more time you spend around people, I think the more comfortable you get. And I think that's sort of the big thing for me, getting to spend time away from the rink with these guys and going on trips and being on the road. And, you just you get to know people, they get to know you, and it allows you to, be yourself. And glad that that's what everyone's saying.
Jesse Granger with The Athletic for Jack. You mentioned you dream of playing in the playoffs your whole life. Now that you've played 2 rounds in the playoffs, how does it compare?
It's awesome. I mean, it's a great experience. Everything's obviously heightened, and it means that much more every night. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun getting to share this experience with my family and my friends, and to have them come to some games. And it was their dream for me to play in the playoffs too. So I think everyone's enjoying it. It's nice to come out after games and see other guys' families and, be able to talk to them and see how they're enjoying the experience. So it's been a good one. Obviously, we're halfway there and we got a lot of work to do, but it's a day-to-day thing. Can't look too far ahead. You just have to stay in the moment.
Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Aiden, as a big goalie, what does it do for you also to be playing behind a defense group that has the size that your defense group does have?
Yeah, it's huge. I think I've kind of said it all year. I think we have arguably the best defensive core in the league, and our depth shows too. So I mean, our forwards are great in our own end too, so it really helps. Our guys do a good job of boxing guys out, kind of letting me see around and over them and try and control the rebounds and limit the rebounds, right? So I think our group, I don't know, we've done a great job all year playing good defensive hockey. We led our division all year in goals against, and that's up and down the lineup, right? That's not one guy chipping in, that's everyone. So yeah, we just got to stick with that mentality and keep moving forward.
Ben Gutz, Las Vegas Regional. Jack, I mean, speaking of kind of defensive work, what's been the impact that Bruce has had on this group this year? Where has he helped the most?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at camp, whenever you have a new coach, they want to implement their system, and I think that was a big thing with Bruce early this year. He wanted to implement his defensive system, and you see it have success in Boston in his previous years there. And for us, it was a little bit of a change, but I think we picked it up pretty quickly. And I think when everyone's working on the same page defensively, it can be really effective, and I think you've seen that. And you know, credit to the guys for picking it up, and obviously credit to Bruce for you know, implementing that. And I think it's been good for us.
We have time for a few more. Right side.
Mark Anderson, AP. Aiden, have you talked to Jonathan Quick about his experience this time of year, and if so, what kind of advice has he given you?
Yeah, I mean, just stay in the moment. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I talked to Quickie right from the first day he got here, and he's been nothing but unbelievable. A great role model for me. So, I mean, I grew up watching him go on those cup runs, and it was pretty impressive what he was able to do for that team. So, I mean, yeah, I've been talking to him lots and learning from him, and yeah, he's great to come in and see him at the rink every day.
Any more questions for Aiden and Jack? One more. Last question.
Aiden, you've talked about, you know, picking up right where you left off kind of at the end of the year when you got hurt. What has been kind of the keys to your game that you feel like you've picked up on and been successful with down the stretch?
I mean, first of all, I think our team has been playing great defensive hockey, right, up and down the lineup. But I think for me, the biggest thing is just my patience and tracking, just trying to stay on my feet as long as I can and kind of not overreacting, letting the play come to me.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
There's a couple of guys in Jack Eichel and Aiden Hill, different routes to the National Hockey League, different paths to that particular media session on the eve of the Western Conference Final. Neither one had played in a Stanley Cup playoff game before this spring.
Well, that's over now. Now they have, right? So, and you can hear the excitement. They love being there. That's what you grow up. Instead, as a kid, you always dreamed about. Well, you dreamed about playing in the NHL, that first game, you know, regular season. But beyond that, this is the moments you want to be in these high pressure. You know, everything on the line, trying to chase down that ultimate dream of winning the Stanley Cup, and to be in this moment for both of them, their first time, and you know, everybody wants to be a part of it, right? To have a piece of that success. So very important for both of them. Jack Eichel's, they're both those guys are going to be very integral here in this series because you know how important the goaltending position, and you're going to look to your top players to help lead the way. Even though the Golden Knights, as Marcia so said early, they've been their strength is different guys, different nights stepping up. But Jack Eichel, I believe he's taken his game up here in playoffs, and I think that's great because he's as talented as he is. I love how competitive of a guy he is. That to me, he is driven, and he's going to go now. Now they're going in another moment they haven't been in, so it's about elevating your game a little bit more for both those guys.
There's a swagger, there's a confidence. The competitive side we've learned and watched, I think, grow throughout. And there's a maturity to his game, to wanting to learn, which
look at how he
didn't see before.
Yeah, he's completely bought in to defense. He is a really good defensive centerman because of all those the skill set, the ability he has to make things happen offensively, speed, stick, strong, power. He's applied that now to the defensive zone. He can close quickly. He can support pucks from underneath. You know, good positionally in the center position. So that to me has been maybe the thing I've enjoyed most watching this year is how good defensively he has been. You know, one area of his game, and I'm sure he'd tell you, he's got to work on faceoffs, but that's going to come as he gets older, getting better in the faceoff circle. But really becoming a complete player because the offensive abilities are always going to be there. And I think they're still going to continue to go up. But his ability to buy in, as we were talking about, the competitiveness we've learned, now you've seen him, the willingness to buy into the team concept and be reliable, someone you can count on. Just a complete player.
Jonathan Marchessault loves this time of the year. Mark Stone, working his way back through rehab and a second back surgery, is so privileged to be on this stage. I don't know whether anybody relishes this moment more, though, than Jack Eichel and the opportunity that's before him, given what he's gone through in the past.
Yeah, I think they all have. Everybody's gone. You've gone through. Everybody's gone through something to get to this point at whatever part in their life, their junior career, their college, whatever it may be, injury. It's all happened. So yeah, it's going through a lot to get to this point,
including Bruce Cassidy and the journey that he's been on.
Good composure, I think. Mindset has been good coming out of losses. That's where you find out about your group, right? Like, how do you respond? So, like, that's what we found out. The games we've not been at our best, we've self-corrected in a hurry. Obviously, we have to do our part as a staff, but I think the players in general recognize that, get back to what works for us. So they've been through the playoffs before, a lot of them. So that's probably the biggest reason why they've been there and done it, and know that that's what's required.
Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Bruce, what's different? This might seem like a loaded question, but what's different about this team with Mark Stone now back in the lineup, and what he can bring?
Well, I mean, we won games without Mark, and we kept playing, but I mean, he's an impact player, so that's what's different. The guy going in for him can give you some of it, but he's not giving you all of what Mark Stone brings. And I guess the biggest thing he brings is those plays he makes at crucial times, or just other guys don't have that. I don't want to say hockey IQ, because guys do have hockey. I don't know how to quite describe it. It's in the moment in time he makes plays that other guys can't, and we missed that part of it. Some guys can still go fill in and score a few goals or kill a penalty, but in general, and then the emotional lift when he does. I do believe when good things happen with Mark, there's like a noticeable, you see it, and I think it's infectious in the group. I think he makes Chandler Stevenson a better player as well, because there's just such a comfort level for both of them. So those are the things when he's in there. So not does he bring his game, but I think he elevates Chandler's, and vice versa. So now you got two players that are moving up, and that's, to me, the biggest difference, what he does for us. Like I said, he just has a way of making other people around him better, and that's what the best ones usually do. So that's the irreplaceable part, I think, sometimes when you lose them.
Danny Webster, Las Vegas Sun. Bruce, talking about Jack, we've talked about his defense a lot this year. You've obviously been very complimentary of that side of the puck for him, but as far as when you look at what the Carlson line did and the Stevenson line did against Edmonton, was Jack's line probably underrated defensively through games 3 through 6, and is that an area that we probably aren't talking enough about?
I don't know what was I don't know what was written, honestly, about their entire game. Clearly Marsh made a difference offensively. He was coming. He was very close. He scored it in the playoffs in the regular season. You would assume it was going to come. But Jack in general, his line's been good. I think whoever's played with all year good defensively, and part of that was Marchessault, and I think Cotter for a long period of time. Then Barbie came. So to me, his game's been good. And like I said, I can't remember what was. You'd have to fill me in on what was written or wasn't written about his game.
Nothing really written, just more so in general the impact that Will's line had and Chandler's line had. Jack's line defensively also making an impact.
Well, it did big time. And you think of Carly maybe more naturally in that role. Stevie did it with Washington for a Stanley Cup, so yes, you're thinking, and maybe Jack gets overlooked in that area. And I'm not doing this to get a player on my side. I'm telling you what I saw in October as a guy that was committed to defense. It's what I saw, and I think people watch him close enough, they would agree with that the metrics back it up. It all backs it up. So here's a guy that's been invested since, well, I don't know, since I've known him and coached him. What happened last year in Buffalo, I have no idea. I know what I see here, and he's a guy that wants to be a good 200-foot player, and is. It's not like he doesn't do the right things. He does, and he values it. When you talk to him, he values it. So now sometimes if like you can do it all you want, but if the D aren't getting it done, or you don't get a save, or your wingers, there's 5-6 pieces to good defense every time, every shift. So, and he's done his part, and I would trust him against anybody. How we match up sometimes depends on, can his wingers do the job against certain offensive defensemen? That there's farther things that go into it in a playoff series. And then you got to adjust accordingly. But I would have no problem having Jack out there against any centerman in the league or any line. He plays all the time in the last minute when the game's on the line. And I think, I've said that from day one. And he has to. If he wants to be that high-end player that wins, I think those things are required, out of center ice. And I think the best ones all have that in them. However they do it, they may do it differently, but they all have that mindset that they got to be able to play on both sides of the puck.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. Bruce, kind of staying along those lines, when you look at what you have with Jack, Chandler, and William, like everybody talks about how you win in this league and how you have to have that strength down the middle. Like, what's it like to have that across 3 lines, knowing that they all, while they have some similarities, they provide you something different that makes this group so versatile?
Well, we're forgetting a 4th line too, right? Nick Waugh plays a big role in our success defensively, and Teddy Bluger, if we move Nick up. Our 4th line's been great for us to take some of those hard minutes away from. I mean, I don't think any centerman that has offensive ability too wants to spend his whole game checking somebody either. That's just part of what you have to do when you don't have the puck. So, and sometimes a face-off, you get to start fresh, and we've been able to use our 4th line against a lot of lines, so that saves them a little bit of wear and tear as well. But I just think that's why we're still playing, to be honest with you, because we can use all our lines against different people, and we still feel we'll have an advantage somewhere eventually on the offensive side of things too, because I think they're all can generate the way they've been paired off, like Smitty and Carly, Jack and Marsh, and Stevie and Stoney, right? We fit some pieces around them, but they're still all threats. So it's a tough matchup for us. It's a tough matchup for the other team's D. They got 3 lines that you can't just say our third pair is going to take this line, because we saw it last time from series to series. We don't know which one of those lines is going to be our best offensive line, and that's a bit of the beauty of our team right now, and again, why I think we're a good hockey club, because we don't rely on one line.
Steve Carp with the Sporting Tribune. What have you enjoyed the most about coaching this particular group? And given the success you've had, does it reinforce the beliefs that you had in yourself in being able to coach in this league after what happened in the end of Boston?
Oh, I've always had belief. I feel I coached well in Boston. I left nothing on the table there. That they felt it was time for a change, and that happens over and over and over and over again in this league. So what I've enjoyed about here is I came in not knowing any of these players. So now you're starting, sometime in Boston, I coached a lot of those guys in the minors, so I had a really good feel for what they were, and they had a feel for what I was, and so that helped me going into that situation. Here, I'm farther along in my career, so you're a little more comfortable in your own skin, so you can walk in and sort of, it's easier to sell how you want to play and convince the guys when you've done it before and seen it work. So I've enjoyed the fact that they've been receptive to it since day one. We have a veteran group that has opinions, and I respect their opinions and I solicit their opinions. But at the end of the day, I do believe that when the puck drops, we head out on the ice, our guys are all in terms of how we want to play. Doesn't mean we're going to get it accomplished every night. No, you've watched our team. We're imperfect, but we're still playing for a lot of those reasons. I think we have A, good players that want to play for one another, and B, I do believe it's a good group that respects how we're trying to play and what it takes to win. So that's the part that's been enjoyable for me.
Time for 2 more. Front right.
Jesse Granger with The Athletic. You mentioned that when good things happen for Mark Stone, it kind of provides a boost to the rest of the team. It certainly feels that way from the outside too. Do you think that's the work they saw him putting in to get back to this point? Like, why do you think you have that feeling when good things happen for him?
Well, I think that's just who he is. It's his personality. He's a quiet guy, but when he's very emotional. His celebrations are great. They're not. I don't think they're disrespectful towards the opponent. They're just in the moment happiness. I think guys love that about him. I don't think he's a chatterbox by any means in there. So when he does speak and something happens, I think guys take notice. So And he's just a good guy, and the guys, they like him. They like him and respect him, and they've also seen 2 years in a row now where he has gone through some major health issues, right? So that's going to affect anybody in terms of watching your teammate go through that. So no one knew how he'd respond in this one. He responded out of the last one well. He had a great start. Things were going well, and then it didn't. And so we weren't sure. So I think that's another reason guys are like, I'm sure Mark is grateful for he's healthy and able to play, and we talk about that in the room a lot. Be grateful for this opportunity because they don't come every year, and and I think that's part of it too. I think our guys are, because they're a little bit older, they know that these types of injuries, they can be serious and derail you. Jack went through a major one as well, so you got two guys in the room, a little bit of uncertainty going through them. So anyway, I think that has something to do with it as well.
Last question on the right.
Ken Bolkeson in Vegas. I know you don't plan on switching lines up a lot, something you kind of have to react to, but I was wondering in the last series with how much they switched, was there a conscious effort, like let's make sure we try and keep ours together?
I will keep mine together as long as I like what I see, and sometimes you don't win and you like what you see, right? So it's not a fault of the Lions, it's just they did something better or whatnot. So I usually switch lines when I just don't feel like something's missing out there. So sometimes it's to get us back to our, going to the right game, or I want to shorten the bench so that the guys that are going get out there more often and get our, we get back on the rails, so to speak. And sometimes it's to get a player's attention. So there's different reasons, a number of different times. I don't go into a game planning on it. I will say this, there's been a few games that I've, in the Edmonton series where I wrote down other lines that we may go to if we didn't like the way the matchups were going. So maybe that answers your question. I never went to them. So that one was pre-planned. Most of the time it's not. It's, I have an idea who's played with who and what switches we can make because it won't be foreign to the players. But in general, I thought it went pretty well against Edmonton. They had some games where they clearly outplayed us and deserved to win. But I don't know if I necessarily needed to change the lines in those situations. We did going into Game 5, but it was more about replacing one player with another. It was a different reason why. And so that, we did that in Game 5, I believe, right? And, I think it worked out. When you win, it works out. When you lose, it doesn't, right? But I don't know if that's necessarily always the case. They can still play well, and those guys that get switched and win or lose. So, that's it. Yeah, thank you.
There have been tweaks along the way for the Vegas Golden Knights. Injury forced the implementation of a couple of blue liners in the Winnipeg series. Ben Hutton, Braden Mahal went in, and that was a difficult challenge. They survived that. And then in the Edmonton series, Michael Amadio was sub for Teddy Bluger, and then Nick Waugh moved up. So a couple of little moves.
And we're talking about the regular season early, right? They'd been through that, so it's not strange territory for them to go down. Everybody understands their roles if they come in, what needs to be done, how they need to play, and it's seamless transition here. And I think it's talk about the depth of the team. It's the strength of the Golden Knights and their ability to have all these different options for a coaching staff, I think, is really, really helped them, and they have that in their back pocket if there's something needs to happen. I think Bruce Cassidy's really good at reading when and if that needs to happen.
I think it speaks to how well things have gone because Bruce isn't shy about making changes, and he's done it early in games. We've got Kelly McCrimmon coming up, the general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights, and this extended Realm Report ahead of Game 1 between the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights tomorrow, 5:30. Get there early. Enjoy everything around Toshiba Plaza. 1 o'clock, things will start ramping up outdoors, and then the doors to the rink will open at 4 o'clock. Game time just after 5:30. It's an ESPN series throughout this time. No bouncing back and forth. So ESPN has the West, TNT, TBS has the Eastern Conference Final. You can also listen to the games on Fox Sports Las Vegas. So that's the situation tomorrow. Jack in Hamilton, Ontario, thanks for checking in with us. I wanted to make sure that we got a shout out to you. McWrighty in Winthrop Harbor, Illinois. I've never been to Winthrop Harbor, Illinois, but I can't think of a place that's harder to enunciate than Winthrop Harbor.
That's why you're so talented at what you do.
Thank you. Charlie in Chihuahua, Mexico.
Chihuahua, Mexico.
Andrew in Billings, Montana. That is a piece of heaven up there. And the VGK Twitch chat loves Aiden Hill. So thanks for being with us throughout this extended Realm Report. Gary Lawless and Ashley Weiss brought us on the air. Practice seems like a while ago now. It's good to be able to be in the same room with you for this extended period of time. What's been your favorite part so far?
Oh, all of it, Darren.
Yeah?
Just sitting next to you.
Just bubbling
every
over.
Every time it is an absolute treat.
Game number ones have been flipped so far in this playoffs. So lost the opener against Winnipeg and had a really strong performance against Edmonton. So there's no rhyme or reason as to what happens early in the series to the success that Vegas has enjoyed.
No, and it shouldn't, right? Every game's different, every scenario is different, and some of the key things that, listening to that is, Bruce Cassidy said, enjoy this opportunity, right? Like they recognize the opportunity they're in, and then I think it was Marcia and was it Hill or Eichel said, now we got to take advantage of this opportunity. So it's what you want to do, create opportunity. You can't worry about what happened in that game. It's game to game. Marcia
Is it hard to enjoy what's happening right now?
No. This is what you play for, right? This is the competitive
You make it sound
spirit.
like that's a stupid question, but
is.
they're so
What do you mean
dialed
you're gonna
in,
enjoy
and
it?
they're. You're locked
Do you enjoy
in.
this time of year?
I love it, but I'm not.
So why wouldn't they?
Watching that? Of course it is. But sometimes I think that they get so locked in that they don't take a moment to enjoy.
No, you've taken it all in right now. It's a lot easier to enjoy if you keep winning.
Yeah,
that's one. I'll say that. But yeah, this is. So what you play for? These are the moments.
Here's the general manager, Kelly McCrimmon.
This year's team has been able to get back here after missing the playoffs last year.
Yeah, we're real happy to be in the conference final. We're a rematch of a series that we had a couple of years ago, and really to date it's been a really good season. We had a franchise record for points with 111 points. We had 25 wins at home, 26 wins on the road. We've beat two really good teams in the playoffs to get to the Final Four. We're healthy. We're excited to be playing at this time of year. So we're where we want to be in terms of our team right now, Ben.
Right side.
Kelly, when you're Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Kelly, when you're building a team, when you're in your mind the team that you like, how much do you put a lot of value on size on the back end? Because you look at your team, it's a big defense group that's mobile too, and is that a big factor in how you like a team to look?
Well, there's real good defensemen in the NHL that aren't big. It's interesting. We just had the conversation this morning. I sure think in playoff size of your team does have an impact. We're big up front as well. And when we played Edmonton, they have a real big team. So I think you see when you watch the different series that sometimes it can be tough for people to get to the front of the net if you're not big enough. And I think the flip side, more specific to your question, a big defense I think is helpful at this time of year. And obviously you have to be able to play, right? So there's some tremendous defensemen that are undersized that any team would love to have, but I like the makeup of our group. I think the growth on our back end of the Hague-White Cloud pair, I think has really been significant, really been noticeable, and really helpful to our team. The way that John Stevens is able to utilize the group of six, I think has really helped our team get to this point.
Second row on the left.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. Kelly, I mean, you look at the way this team is and this franchise has been, it seems like it kind of takes everyone, and guys come in and they're able to assimilate right away. Like, what do you think it's been that's allowed this organization to keep that from day one to where when guys come here, it's easy for them to settle in, assimilate, to where even they say, hey, they're wives and girlfriends, they feel like they're part of something big. What do you think that's been?
I think that it's a reflection of a real good organization, beginning with Bill Foley. I think we've had continuity with some really good people, from day one. We've still got 6 players left from that original team. I think we put a lot of onus on the type of people that we bring in. I think we've got good chemistry with our players. We've got a very good culture as an organization, and I think those things show themselves in many different ways. And some of the things you've touched on would be what I'm speaking to.
Questions for Kelly?
Kelly, just what's it been like to work with Bruce this year, and how impressed have you been with the job he's done with this team?
Yeah, Bruce has done a great job for us, and I always sort of add to that because I know Bruce would be the first to credit his staff as well. I think collectively They've done a really good job. We had a lot of injuries this year to our team. We still had 111 points in 82 game regular season, which allowed us to finish first in the Pacific and as well first in the conference. And when you look at the job that the coaches did when we had to go to Henderson for reinforcements, I think that's where you saw them do some of their best work. They kept us relevant. They kept us in a position where we still found ways to win. When you look at Shea Theodore missing almost 30 games, Zach Whitecloud missing 25 games, Alex Petrangelo missed 9 or 10 with the family situation. We had a stretch in December where all those players were out, and I think the staff did a really good job with using our people from Henderson to continue to find ways to win. I've talked before. I talked to Dan the other day about Bruce does a really good job of keeping people accountable, and yet doing it in a way that is respectful, and players know where he's coming from and understand it's about team, it's about winning. And I think that's really showed itself over the course of the year. And I think in our series with Winnipeg, our series with Edmonton, there's different things that happen over the course of a 7-game series where you're coaching in games, you're coaching between games, you're making adjustments that are required. Every team in playoffs presents its own challenges, and I just remember over the years when you finish one series and you might be glad to see the last of this guy, and then you get to the next series, well, they've got another challenge, right? So not unlike Edmonton, where you move on from two of the best players in the world, arguably the two best players in the world. You get to Dallas, well, big team, great balance, great depth, 4-line team, a Norris caliber defenseman on the blue line, and a goalie with real good pedigree and playoff experience. So the challenges are always going to be there for you, and I think that's where your coaching at this time of year is really important.
Front right.
Jesse Granger with The Athletic. It's been a while since we've asked for an update on Robin Lehner. I'm just wondering if you can provide any insight into where he's at in the process and maybe what his next steps are.
Robin is getting rehab still on his both hips still. I'm not exactly sure in terms of a timeline how close he is to the finish line. I'm just not up to speed on that.
Stand right.
Kelly, what's noticeable to you with this team when Mark Stone is on the ice as he is in these playoffs, and when he was missing for the last 2-3 months of the regular season? What's the noticeable difference?
Well, he's the player that really, since the day he arrived, has been the straw that stirs the drink for the different traits that he brings to our team, the things you see with his outward emotion, his passion to win, his excitement when he scores, his excitement when a teammate scores, but just how complete a player he is with his hockey sense, his skill set. Really good defensive player, really good offensively, big, and to your point, he missed 39 games this season, so maybe should have included that when we were talking about the question about the coaching. We went through. That was going into the All-Star break. I believe it was January 12th when Mark was injured against Florida. We struggled going into the All-Star break. The decision was made at the break for Mark to get surgery, and then, really, I think where the benefit may have been is it forced the rest of us to adapt to this new version of ourselves, because Mark wasn't going to be part of it. So there was no sense waiting for him to be back. We had to move on without him, and that's where our season, we finished really strong, whatever it was, 22-4-5 or whatever those numbers were at the end. And it was interesting coming out of the All-Star break. We probably have talked about this in the past, but just how many teams in the West took off. Minnesota had a tremendous run. Edmonton had a tremendous run. Dallas did. And Colorado came from behind the pack to finish first in their division. So the Western Conference games, those last 30 games, were really competitive, really good teams playing well at that time.
Second row on the left.
Danny Webster, Las Vegas Sun. Kelly, off topic, just wanted to know if there was an update on the Henderson coaching search and the decision to move on from Manny. Is there an update on that?
Yeah, we've postponed that. We've had discussions internally about what we want the process to look like. Haven't spoken directly to any candidates at this point. That's something that we'll work towards soon after our season ends. That's going to be the timeline for that type of stuff.
We have time for 2 more questions. Stand left.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. Going back to when you guys first got Jack, what was sort of the intel and conversations you and your staff had about bringing in Jack, and what were those things that you wanted to get answered before you made the trade?
Well, it ties in for me with our interest in Jack was, based on, when we go back, I've told this story to our local media different times, but when we were in the bubble in Edmonton, so the last time we played Dallas in the playoffs, it just became clear that you need a number 1 defenseman to be a Stanley Cup contender. When you look at what Tampa had with Hedman, St. Louis won with Pietrangelo. I think if you go back and look at teams that win a Stanley Cup, that's part of the makeup of those rosters. And I think in the same breath, so was a number 1 center. And we had good centers, but if you look at the Montreal series, where I believe in game 1, Chandler Stevenson was injured, and all of a sudden you run out of centers. And I think now, one of the strengths of our team is our strength up the middle, not only with the guys that are playing there right now, but with some of the players on our lineup. For example, Brett Howden, who is a natural center. Also, Michael Matteo can play center. So that's the motivation behind the trade. In terms of what did we need to know, there was a lot of unknowns because he was waiting for surgery, and it was a situation where Buffalo were encouraging him to take a different path with respect to his injury. He was adamant that it was his body, and he had a firm position that he wanted to have the disc replacement. So, it's anything but a sure thing when a guy gets neck surgery. And yet, when you listened and spoke with Pat Brisson, his representative, the work they had done led primarily in many respects by Jack, the work they had done to identify what they wanted to do, who they wanted to do the surgery. And it's interesting, Dr. Chad Prusmack was the person that did Jack's surgery, and in turn it was that relationship and our organization's confidence and belief in his skills that led us to have Mark Stone get his second surgery there this past January. So that was what went into acquiring him, having him get the surgery, and then he recovered, relatively quickly. When you look at the magnitude of the surgery, there's been other players in the NHL that have had that exact surgery now and successfully. So, I give Jack some credit. He stood strong in his convictions. I think a lot of players around the league were proud that he stood up for himself, and we're thrilled that the surgery was successful. And I think really you could see this year, with the benefit of the off season, with the benefit of knowing his teammates, with the benefit of being at training camp, he's looked very comfortable. And then another layer to it is now that we've got the playoffs, and he certainly is thriving in that setting. So that's a great thing for our team.
Last question on the right.
Jesse Granger with The Athletic. You mentioned the emotion and the passion that Mark Stone plays with and the effect it can kind of have on his teammates. You've known him a really long time. I'm wondering, was he that way the first time you met him as a teenager in Brandon? Has he always kind of had that?
I would say yes. He it's very genuine, right? That's what's so intriguing about it, is that's just how he approaches the game. And he was a great junior. He played 4 years for me in Brandon, but then I think where you hit the stage in Canada nationally as a junior age player is when you make the World Junior team. And the World Junior tournament is, if you're a Canadian hockey fan, that's what you do from December 26th till the 5th of January. When Mark made the World Junior team his final season of junior, his 19-year-old year, I think that's where a lot of people realized how good a player he was, and you saw a lot of that in that tournament. He was scoring big goals. He was excited. He was definitely motivated to play great hockey.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, guys, folks.
Little backstory. It was Kelly McCrimmon that guided Mark Stone to use the long stick. And Totham said, if you use this stick, you open up different avenues for you. So that was during his first or second year in the Brandon Wheat Kings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Took to the end of the show for you to add something.
Imagine if we went another 3 hours.
Oh, this is good. This is a record for us.
This is incredibly exciting. Anticipation between Dallas and Vegas meeting for the second time in the last number of years inside the bubble in 2020. Both teams are different. We know that. Different coaches through it all. How do you think Vegas is better equipped to handle Dallas today?
I like their D. I said the big D. We talked a lot about that. Kelly McCrimmon, that was part of, their, when they look at their team, how they want to build it. And just depth. I think that, it's not going to be easy. I think Dallas is deep, and all the things I say about the Golden Knights, Dallas has. I just think the one thing the Golden Knights have been able to do this year that is really, it's a simple saying, but they've found ways to win through injuries, different people stepping up, different goaltenders being in net. They just find a way, and it's kind of it's the quirky little thing they have going for themselves that's true and can benefit them here as they go into this series. But they're really, really, this is the best hockey team I've seen here in Vegas.
Deepest hockey team or best hockey team?
Best.
Because they've had some really good skill teams.
They've had some really, this is to me the most complete. And so they've given themselves the opportunity. And we can talk all about X's, O's, who's better, who's this. There's still the elements of will, desire, compete level, urgency to play the games, ready to play, preparedness. All that stuff is on the players now, and that's why they play the games. So they've got to go out. I think they have a real good chance here, and they should, if they play the right way and find ways to win and utilize their skill, their depth, their everything. It's maybe not going to be a quick series, but hopefully one they can get past and move on to another step closer.
Well, you have seen that fire in your big name players in Pietrangelo in the Edmonton series, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel throughout Conn Smythe, Canada.
It's opportunity, right? Take advantage of this opportunity they're in. That's what you got to understand.
Game number 1 tomorrow afternoon at the Fortress, and we will get you going around 5:30 on ESPN on the television side, or Fox Sports Las Vegas on the radio portion. Toshiba Plaza festivities will start at 1 o'clock, and then the doors open at 4, and then it's a noon start for Game 2 on Sunday. So just back everything up regarding that side of it, and getting to the rink early, enjoying all that comes with being in the Western Conference Final, the third round for the 4th time in franchise history. More to come on the VGK Insider Show on Fox Sports Las Vegas at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then we'll get to game day tomorrow. The Eastern Conference Final does start tonight as well, so you can take that one in between Carolina and Florida. Thanks to Gary Lawless and Ashley Ice for joining us earlier today. Ryan and Gordon behind the scenes, and of course Shane with me for the last 90 minutes or so. I'm sure it's been a thrill that he'll never look back on with fading admiration. Thanks for watching The Realm Report.